Revelation 12:17, talking about those who make it in the end, said these are those who have a testimony of Jesus Christ and keep the commandments of Elohim, of God, right? And so we have different terms that we use or that are applied to us. We're Torah observant. Some people say Torah observant Christians. We're Torah observant followers of Yeshua. We're Messianic Hebrew roots. What am I missing?
Nazarene,
whatever, right? Titles. I think what titles or labels do is kind of exclude rather than include. But the bottom line is we have a testimony of Yeshua HaMashiach. We have a testimony of Jesus Christ. And we try to keep the commandments of Yah. Torah, the law. We know, even though we're accused of not knowing it, that we're not getting to the Father's presence by our keeping or not keeping of Torah, right? We can't earn our salvation. It's a gift from via Yeshua, right, to us, the blood of Jesus. But that doesn't mean we don't try, right? Should we sin that grace may abound? Yah forbid, right? No, we don't sin. What is sin? Sin is transgression of the law. Sin is transgression of Torah. And so we have to keep Torah. Well, to keep Torah, you got to kind of know it. Right? Well, I didn't know. Why don't you? You got a Bible in your hand. And so that we're going to continue doing bits of the Torah portion until the Father kind of tells me otherwise. So to that end, we are in Deuteronomy chapter 16. Unfortunately, we're not going to go over the slave stuff I said we were going to do last week. Read that on your own. We're going to pick up in this week's Torah portion, which starts in Deuteronomy chapter 16, verse 18. Judges and officers. This is called judges or Shoftim, I think. Shoftim? It means judges. Judges and officers shalt thou make thee in all thy gates. Now, this is the rules for Israel. This is Torah. They're getting ready to go into the promised land, and the Father's saying, hey, this is how you guys are going to conduct yourselves, and this is how you're going to act. This didn't go away, what we're about to read today. It still is the rules. It's just that right now, much of what we're going to read today, we're not in charge of the land. So we're not in charge of the rules. We have a land in this country called the United States Code, right? U.S. Code. That's our laws, right? And supposedly founded on the Constitution and stuff like that. But just think about this while we read it today. There's some interesting things. So you're going to have judges, you're going to make judges in all your gates, which Yahweh the Elohim gives thee throughout all your tribes. And they shall judge the people with just judgment. So if you start putting that, if this ends up being a world without rule of law, there is no law anymore because of whatever, the aliens have landed or something. We have gates, we have tribes, we have areas, right? And each one of those clearly should have judges. So you start thinking about that. Who's our judge going to be? Who are our judges going to be? Right? Something to think about, because it's easy to take this and go, yeah, that was then and stuff, but we should kind of try to put ourselves in it. And they shall judge the people with a just judgment. You shall not wrest judgment. You shall not respect persons, neither take a gift, which is like a bribe. For a gift does blind the eyes of the wise and pervert the words of righteousness. So in other words, they got to judge righteously. They can't, I like Cody. Cody's done a lot for me. And if I'm the judge and he shows up, I'm still supposed to judge righteously. It doesn't matter that he just gave me, whatever he just gave me, some kind of gift. As a matter of fact, I'm not supposed to take it because that perverts wisdom and justice. That which is altogether just shalt thou follow, that thou mayest live. This is why. And inherit the land which Yahweh the Elohim gives thee. That's full stop. Here's another one. You shall not plant thee a grove. That's what it says in King James. It's an Asherah. It's those trees that they worship. They carved them to look like phallic symbols, right? They were prevalent in the land in that time. You shall not do that unto the altar of Yahweh the Elohim, which thou shalt make thee. Neither shalt thou set thee up any image which Yahweh thy Elohim hates, because these people who worshipped all these things would put them up. to put it in kind of modern context, if you think of like a big Buddha statue. You know, my mom, when she passed, we got some things that she had, and one of the things I wanted, because I thought it was cool and she'd had it forever, was this little fat, smiling Buddha concrete statue that she had in her garden. I thought it looked cool. And so I brought it home, we stuck it in our garden. Well, then the Father started leading us to Torah and the things, and I read this, and it's in other places, and it's like, oh, no, we cannot have this at our house, because this is definitely worship by other people. This is exactly what we're talking about. And so that kind of thing goes on. I submit to you, when people say, have in the yards the statue of Mary, which isn't it interesting how it looks like a phallic symbol? They're done that way on purpose. I'm telling you, because none of this stuff is new. It all goes back to that. People don't know that when they buy it and set it up in their yard, but people say we're not worshiping Mary. The heck you're not. You're praying to her. So, you can't do that stuff. It's not right. Father doesn't want us to do it. Neither shalt thou set thee up any image which Yahweh the Elohim hates. Chapter 17, you shall not sacrifice unto Yahweh your Elohim any bullock or sheep wherein is a blemish, or any evil favoredness, for that is an abomination unto Yahweh the Elohim. Now, why would you have to tell people that? Because they've got to give up one of their critters, right, for the sacrifice. Fine, we got to give one up. Well, this one's a mess, man. I don't even really want to eat it. Let's sacrifice this one, right? It's human nature. Right? No, you got to give the best of, right? And so it says, but just to be sure, don't give it if it's got a blemish, something wrong with it. There's a lot of little things here. If there be found among you within any of your gates, we've got gates, any man or woman, where am I? Any of the gates which Yahweh the Elohim gives thee, man or woman, that has wrought wickedness in the sight of Yahweh the Elohim in transgressing his covenant, and has gone and served other gods and worshipped them, either the sun, the moon, or any of the host of heaven, which I have not commanded, and it be told, so if somebody from your camp you find out has gone off worshiping these other gods, right? That's basically what's going on here. And it be told thee, and you have heard of it, and inquired diligently, and behold, it be true, and the thing certain that such an abomination is wrought in Israel. Yep, they are. They're out there worshiping something else. Then shalt thou bring forth that man or that woman, which has committed that wicked thing unto thy gates, even the man or that woman, and shall stone them with stones till they die. Our Yah is a jealous Yah. He doesn't want his people going and worshiping anybody else. And if they do, they die. And he's telling Israel to kill them. Think about that. Think about trying to preach that tomorrow all over this land. Right? People will be like, no way, that was then, this is now. It's one Torah forever. It doesn't change. And at the mouth of 2 witnesses or 3 witnesses shall he that is worthy of death be put to death. But at the mouth of 1 witness he shall not be put to death. So you have to have at least 2 people who see that. And do you know they wrote this? I started out talking about USC, United States Code. They wrote this into the law for treason. And for treason, you have to have at least 2 people who witness a specific act of treason testify against that person. And because treason, what's the penalty for treason?
Death.
Death. They have to have 2 people. And then there was an argument after the law got passed. Well, let's say Bob here is accused of treason, and Brother Cody testifies, yeah, I saw him do this treasonous thing. And then Sister Kate says, yeah, I saw him do this other treasonous thing. Well, that's 2 separate things. So they had a big discussion about that in Congress, and they said, nope, it's got to be 2 people for the same specific act of treason. But they put that in our code. That's because they read the Bible when they did that. 2 witnesses, at least. The hands of the witnesses shall be first upon him to put him to death. So you got to put your rock where your mouth is. Mm-hmm. And afterwards the hands of all the people. So shalt thou put the evil away from among you. There was a book they made us read in like 7th or 8th grade. It was called The Lottery. It was a weird book. And like they stoned somebody to death. And that, and everything. It's like, traumatic or something. I don't really remember the details of it. 8, if there arise a matter too hard for thee in judgment. All right, so you got these judges in all these cities, but there's this one case, man. It's blood and blood, between plea and plea, between stroke and stroke, being matters of controversy within thy gates. He said, she said, and we just really can't get to the bottom of it. What do we do? And then shalt thou arise and get thee up into the place where Yahweh the Elohim shall choose. That's where the temple is, right? Where the priests are and where everything is going on. And thou shalt come unto the priests, the Levites, unto the judge that shall be in those days, and inquire. And they shall show thee the sentence of judgment. So if you can't figure it out, bring it to the big judge. But once you do, it's out of your hands. Check this next part out. And thou shalt do according to the sentence which they of that place which Yahweh shall choose shall show thee. And thou shalt observe to do according to all that they inform thee. I'm going to stop there for a second. Verse 10 of Deuteronomy 17. Does anybody have an annotation on that verse? I got a little note on that I wrote on the side of it. That is the middle verse of Deuteronomy. Mm-hmm. Some people find that interesting. 11. According to the sentence of the law which they shall teach thee, and according to the judgment which they shall tell thee, thou shalt do. Thou shalt not decline from the sentence which they shall show thee to the right hand or to the left. And the man that will do presumptuously and will not hearken unto the priest that stands to minister there before Yahweh the Elohim or the judge, even that man shall die, and thou shalt put away the evil from Israel. And all the people shall hear and fear and do no more presumptuously. And so if they say to that guy, okay, you brought it to us, fine, this guy's got to pay 50 head of cattle. And he goes, I ain't paying 50 head of cattle. What are you going to do? Well, they're going to kill him. That's what they're going to do, because you're not listening. There's some precedent for this in my household when my kids were growing up. My 2 daughters shared a room their whole life. Even when we had houses big enough for them to have their own room, they wanted to share a room. Mm-hmm. And like sisters do, every now and then, they'd have a little fight or something. You'd hear the voices raised and and it would get to a point, and I'd say, hey, do you want me to settle this, or can you all work it out? They learned real quick they need to settle it, because they're not going to like what I decide to do. And that's a lot of what this is. You bring it to us, we're going to give you a sentence, and you're going to have to carry it out. 14, when thou art come into the land which Yahweh the Elohim gives thee, and shall possess it, and shall dwell therein, and shall say, I will set a king over me, as like all the nations that are round about me. This is kind of interesting. We need a king. Everybody else has a king. We want a king. We want Brother Scott to be our king. You guys fight for which one. I don't know. One of you will be king. There can be only one. All right. Thou shalt in any wise set him king over thee, whom Yahweh the Elohim shall choose. One from among thy brethren shalt thou set king over thee. Now this is important. This is the part that applies to us. Thou mayest not set a stranger over thee, which is not thy brother. We ain't going to have no king over us who's not our brother. We all know what brother means, right? We're all walking in Yeshua. We're all walking in the way. Those are my brothers. It's got to at least be a brother, or he's not our king. Can't do it. But this king guy that you just made king, he shall not multiply horses to himself, nor cause the people to return to Egypt, to the land that to the end that he should multiply his horses. In other words, hey, if you put this guy in charge of you, he can't enrich himself, and he can't take you back the way I led you out of, so that he does better. You know, there's a lot of pressure today from our government on pastors. The pastors aren't kings. But there's pressure on them to tell the people certain things, to lead the people in certain ways, and to facilitate certain messages of the government. And then what happens? That's going back towards the world. That's going back towards everything we're supposed to be getting away from. Can't do that. Neither shall he multiply wives to himself, that his heart turn not away. Neither shall he greatly multiply himself in silver and gold. This is not that sermon, but it said wives. There's a plural there, right? But clearly people can have more than one wife. But this king guy, now that he's king, he doesn't need to be, put it in the vernacular, chasing skirts. He doesn't need to be messing with that. He needs to be focused on his job. And that's what it says here. Wives to himself that his heart turned not away. No, he needs to focus on running the people. And so, dude, when you accepted the kingship, you realize that was part of it. And you're not going to make yourself rich in silver and gold, as so many kings, by whatever term they're called today, in this world do. I bet you, I don't know this for a fact, I bet you almost every one of our Congress critters is a millionaire.
Oh, yeah.
And I have read at how much some of them were worth when they went to Congress and how much they're worth now. And you look at what their salary is, and it's like, how did you get there from here when you've been serving in Congress for the last 10 years? Because they're multiplying wealth unto themselves, is what they're doing. And they're using their job for personal benefit, not for the benefit of the people, which is what you're supposed to do as a leader. And it shall be, when he sits upon the throne of the kingdom, that he shall write him a copy of this Torah, this law, in a book, it's a scroll, out of that which is before the priest, the Levites. I'll just stop right there. I tell people we are so fortunate, we really are, that we have a copy of this ourselves. Everybody has a Bible. And if you don't have one, you can get one. And most of us have more than one Bible, right? We are so fortunate, the printing press, Gutenberg, and all that stuff, that we can get these things. Back in the day, there was like one Torah scroll, and the scribes had it. Now, there were a couple, but there weren't many. And that's why no one had one at home. People didn't have a Torah scroll at home that they could read. That's why they would go to synagogue. They would hear the message, and then they would go home and teach their family. And they would say, that's why a lot of things are repeated over and over and over, because it makes it easy to remember and easy to repeat when you take it home. But they didn't have that. But they're saying, the king, you need to go to look at the Levites copy, and you need to make your own Torah. And you need to write it yourself. Thank God we have it. That doesn't mean that writing it isn't a bad thing either, because it helps lock it into your head a different way. And it shall be with him, and he shall read therein all the days of his life, that he may learn and fear Yahweh his Elohim, to keep all the words of this law and the statutes, and to do them. And so he's supposed to do this every day. Every single day he's supposed to be reading Torah, so that he remembers to keep Torah, so that he remembers that the people need to keep Torah. And the only way to do that, this king is probably going to be a smart guy, right? Or they're not going to set him as king over them. He's got to read it every day. There's a little thing for us there too. We actually have the ability to do that now, to read Torah every day. You can read it on your phone. That his heart be not lifted up above his brethren, so he doesn't get all big-headed about it. And that he turn not aside from the commandment to the right hand or to the left, to the end that he may prolong his days in the kingdom, he and his children in the midst of Israel. Let's turn to Jeremiah 31. Who's our king right now? No king but
Jesus.
No king but Jesus. There used to be a big billboard on the way to the city north of us, up here, which I shall not name because we're being filmed, that said, "Welcome to," name of the town, "where Christ is king." Huge billboard. It's not there anymore. Jeremiah 31. Jeremiah 31:31. "Behold, the days come, saith Yahweh, that I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel." See, this is what you hear a lot of confused people say on Sundays. We're under a new covenant. Okay, let's read about that, because it says he's going to make one. All right, well, let's read about this new covenant. "And with the house of Judah, not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers in the day that I took them by the hand to bring them out of the land of Mitzrayim," Egypt. That's what we're reading about today, right? "Which my covenant they broke, although I was a husband unto them, saith Yahweh." See, that's I'm a little bit angry at you guys. "But this shall be a covenant that I will make with the house of Israel." That's us, right? Even Christians believe, if you get down to brass tacks, to the extent that they think about it at all, they are Israel, because you read about the tree where the branches are broken off and the wild olives are grafted in, and so now we're part of that tree. That tree is Israel, right? "The house of Israel, after these days, saith Yahweh, I will put my law in their inward parts, and I will write it," here's the king writing the law, "I will write it in their hearts, and will be their Elohim," their God, "and they shall be my people." So the new covenant is not just on some Torah scroll. It's written on our hearts. But what is written on our hearts? I will put my law. I will put my Torah on their hearts. He's writing it on our hearts. Just like the king is supposed to write his own Torah, this king, Yeshua, is writing it on our hearts. And they shall teach no more every man his neighbor and every man his brother, saying, Know the Lord, for they shall all know me, from the least of them unto the greatest of them, saith Yahweh. For I will forgive their iniquity, and I will remember their sin, their transgression of breaking Torah, no more. That's the king writing on Torah today. He's writing it on our hearts. We're back in Deuteronomy. That his heart be not lifted up, and right. He won't turn to the right or the left, he prolong his days. Okay, chapter 18. The priests and the Levites and all the tribe of Levi shall have no part nor inheritance with Israel. They shall eat the offerings of Yahweh, bless you, made by fire, and his inheritance. Therefore shall they have no inheritance among the brethren. Yahweh is their inheritance, and as he hath said unto them. And this shall be the priest's due from the people, and from them that offer sacrifice. So they don't have anything, these Levites, so they got to eat, right? Whether it be an ox or a sheep, and they shall give unto the priest the shoulder and the two cheeks, and it says in King James, maw. I think it says stomach in scriptures, right? Have you ever eaten cheeks of a critter? They're pretty good. It's like a muscle, right? It's like meat. It's not bad. Stomach? I don't know. Sounds like something weird, but whatever. The first fruit also of it says corn in King James. They didn't have corn in Israel. Corn as we know it today. They had grain. Of their grain, of thy wine, of thy oil, the first fleece of thy sheep, you shall give to him. For Yahweh the Elohim has chosen him out of all the tribes to stand to minister in the name of Yahweh, him and his sons forever. And if a Levite comes from any of thy gates out of all Israel, where he sojourned, and he comes with all the desire of his mind unto the place which Yahweh shall choose, then he shall minister in the name of Yahweh his Elohim, and his brethren the Levites do, which stand there before Yahweh. And they shall have like portions to eat, besides that which comes of the sale of his, it says patrimony in King James, it's inheritance, right? Is that what it says in scriptures? Mm-hmm. All right, let's look at this part. When you are come into the land which Yahweh the Elohim gives thee, you shall not learn to do after the abominations of those nations. There shall not be found among you anyone that makes his son or his daughter to pass through the fire, or that uses divination, or an observer of the times, or an enchanter, or a witch, or a charmer, or a consulter with familiar spirits, or a wizard, or it says here, a necromancer. A necromancer is somebody who talks with the dead. All that stuff is downright evil. Does it say that stuff doesn't work? Does it say that anyone pretends to talk to the dead? It doesn't say that. This stuff works. Just because it works doesn't mean it's good. Matter of fact, we know this stuff is bad here. Can't do it. And if you've done it in the past, you need to seek, one, forgiveness for it, and two, you got to cast all that stuff out because you got spirits in you. When you open up that door, a lot of things flow in. That's why we're not supposed to do it. For all who do these things are an abomination unto Yahweh. And because of these abominations to Yahweh the Elohim, he does drive them out before thee. You shall be perfect with Yahweh thy Elohim. You shall be devoted. You shall be single-hearted. You shall only be focused on Yah, not this crazy New Age, what they call it today. There's nothing new about New Age stuff that's happening. Get rid of that stuff. Focus on Yah. Focus on him. For these nations which thou shalt possess hearkened unto the observers of times and unto diviners. But as for thee, Yahweh thy Elohim has not suffered you to do so. Yahweh the Elohim will raise up unto you a prophet from the midst of thee of thy brethren, like unto me. Unto him he shall hearken. Ye shall hearken. So listen to this prophet. according to all that thou desirest of Yahweh the Elohim in Horeb in the day of assembly, saying, let me not hear again the voice of Yahweh my Elohim, neither let me see the great fire anymore, that I die not. Remember, that was on the mountain? Mm-hmm. And Yahweh said unto me, they have well spoken that which they have spoken. I will raise them up a prophet. In the King James, the word prophet's capitalized. Who do we think that is? Yeshua. From among their brethren, like unto thee, and will put my words in his mouth. Remember when Yeshua said, only the words of the Father do I speak? And that which comes from him I do not speak. He shall speak unto them all that I shall command him. You think Yeshua knew this verse when he said that? Mm-hmm. He did. And it shall come to pass that whosoever will not hearken unto my words, which he shall speak in my name, I will require it of him. Means he's in trouble. But the prophet, now this prophet's not capitalized, verse 20. But another prophet, which shall presume to speak a word in my name, which I have not commanded him to speak, or that shall speak in the name of other gods, even that prophet shall die. And if thou say in thine heart, how shall we know the word which Yahweh has not spoken? Here's the test. When a prophet speaks in the name of Yahweh, and the thing follow not, nor come to pass, that is the thing which Yahweh has not spoken, but the prophet has spoken of it presumptuously, thou shalt not be afraid of him. There are people in our, if you want to call it religion, who are teachers. They don't want to call themselves pastors. Who have big followings, who have prophesied in the name of Yahweh, something's going to happen, and it did not happen. Mm-hmm. And people still follow these people. Mm-hmm. Wow. Don't be afraid of him. 19, when Yahweh the Elohim cuts off the nations whose land Yahweh Elohim gives thee, and you shall succeed them, the dwellings in their cities and their houses. You know what? We're going to stop there. It talks about dividing up the land. We're going to have 3 places of sanctuary for manslaughter. Basically, if there's manslaughter, you have a place to run. It's too hot right now. Mm. We're just going to take a break, and we'll end the lesson here today, and we'll still fellowship. And if we want to sit out on the porch and talk or do whatever, we can do that. But the cool thing about us and being small, we're flexible. Right? All right, let's pray.